This is Bill Best on AKAU 88.5 FM. And we'll be talking with Lee Eisenstein, an amazing guitarist. Right now, do you recognize this piece, Lee?
I'd say behind doorway number 3 is Bachianas Brasilianas by Heitor Villa-Lobos.
Well, you got the piece is exactly right. It's Lorinda Almeida and Sally Terry.
Oh, I love Almeida and Sally Terry.
And this song, it gives me nene skin. Not little bumps, not chicken skin, nene skin every time I play it.
That cat could play. Lorinda was great, and she's fabulous.
Oh, and Sally Terry. And I've never known another piece that has affected me like that. So I thought I'd play that to just kind of start the show here, because I figured you would know at least what the song was, the piece, being a guitar virtuoso.
Thank you.
Which is what you are.
Well, this song brings back good memories.
Good memories.
Oh,
really?
yeah.
From playing it.
No, from being a kid and listening to this.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Before I started playing guitar.
That's when I first heard it, when I was just a little kid. My mom had a great record collection.
Me too.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
So how old were you when you started playing?
I was about 14, 15, something like that.
And you asked for a guitar?
Yeah, my mom got me a LP by the Kingston Trio called the Kingston Trio Sold Out or Sells Out. Great Kingston Trio release. In fact, I met those guys decades later at the Sheraton Moana Hotel where I played on the Banyan courtyard out there. But she bought me this recording when I was a kid. And I fell in love with the sound of it. And then the Beatles happened shortly thereafter, and of course, that was that.
That's when you got your guitar, when you heard the Beatles?
Yeah, but what my thing was I played classical clarinet at age 12 or so, and I figured, okay, I want to become a guitar player, so the way I ought to do it is to learn classical first and get a foundation in the classical technique, and then use that to expand out into other forms of music, because classical technique is the most technically demanding of all the various styles. So I thought, well, why not start with that,
You're so mature.
I don't know how smart I was, but I was a brainy little kid in a way. I was focused. Very focused.
Well, starting with the oboe, too.
Yeah.
Or clarinet, rather. Clarinet was that. You have to have a little more smarts, I think, for a clarinet player. And I don't know if you saw the Benny Goodman stuff. And there was an animated film I remember that really affected me, and I wanted to take up clarinet. And I remember that the clarinet was in a tree somehow, and they had to somehow get it out. But the sound of a clarinet is just so pleasing.
Yeah, they say it's like the human voice. I've got a lovely clarinet story for you, too, by the way.
Oh, well,
when I was in elementary school, I'd been playing clarinet for maybe a year or so, and they asked me to go from classroom to classroom playing a piece of clarinet music for the other kids. So anyways, the day came when I was going to do this, and I had kind of a cold. And so anyways, I go into the classroom, all full of kids, waiting to hear me play clarinet. I raise my clarinet, blow into the clarinet, and all this snot comes pouring out of my nose all over the clarinet. The entire room erupted in chaos and laughter, and that was the end of my career as a clarinetist.
Well, the kids must have loved you for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It made everybody's day except for the teacher. I think she was horrified.
Well, if you don't know, Lee Eisenstein just did a series of concerts, performances at some of our local libraries, and that's where you came to my attention. Because I was fascinated that not everybody goes and performs and talks about their lives, and that's kind of what this show is all about. We want to get involved with people's lives and find out what inspires them and got them going, and so often when we interview musicians, they have other musicians in their family that played when they were children, and there was always music in the house. And in your case, it it was recorded music. But did
Yeah.
you have a relative or a father, mother, somebody who played?
Well, my father, who sadly he died when I was very young, like a year and a half.
Oh, really?
He was a surgeon, but he played clarinet. And when I was coming up, neither my mother or adopted father played an instrument. But my mother loved music, and she bought me Segovia records. She bought me Kingston Trio, Harry Belafonte, a lot of different stuff. So I got music. I got the bug that way, I think.
Yeah. And you've been living on Maui now, or for a very short time,
For
but
days.
But a few days. Well, I thought that you must be a local musician, having lived here for some time, because you won a Nahoku Hanohano Award.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen to mainlanders very often.
Yeah.
But you've been living on the Big Isle.
And Oahu for 40 years in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah, mostly on Oahu, and the last 12 years on the Big Island. And circumstances there necessitated a change of place. And I'd come here many times for performances for the state. 'Cause I do these free public benefit shows for the state of Hawaii in the libraries. And I love Maui, and I thought, well, let's check out Maui. So we've rented a place up country, and we're probably going to stay here.
Now, when you were living on the Big Isle, you mentioned that I said, well, were you living Hilo side? Was there any problem with the lava, the volcano going off?
No.
You were right next door to the fissures going off.
That's right. There was a lava flow 100 feet from my house.
Oh my! Did you own the house?
Yeah, I built
dear.
it.
Oh, you built the house.
Yeah, I lived there for 12 years. And I was on Kauai doing a show for the state over there at the, I think, Princeville Library when all this started. The earthquake started. I get back to the Big Island. A friend of mine picks me up. We drive out to the back road to get to Leilani Estates, and it's blocked off with police. And I ask them, what's going on? They say, oh, there's earthquakes, and there's cracks in the ground. And they said, there's steam coming out of these cracks. And I said, uh-oh. I said, does that mean there's lava? And the guys kind of looked at each other a little bit nervously. I don't think they wanted to comment because I don't think it had been announced publicly maybe at that point. But one of the guys kind of indicated, yeah, there is. I went up to the top, went down to the house, and there were cracks under the foundation of the house, about a width of a quarter. And I got in there, got as much stuff out in my car as I could. I had my musical stuff from the show. I couldn't get that much out, but I got out what I could, took it to a friend's. I was able a couple of days later to go back. This time the cracks had widened to about 6 inches, and I looked down the bugger. I couldn't even see the bottom of it. It was just black down
scary.
there. And the second day when we went back, it was completely filled in with sulfur dioxide smoke. It was like a horror sci-fi movie, and there was a lava flow like 100 feet from the house just pouring. It had dried, but it was pouring off smoke. It was deadly. And we got everything we could out, which wasn't really all that much compared to the stuff that was in there. And we got out of Dodge, and that was it. We never saw the house again.
Was it destroyed then?
Yeah, the state sent us an overflight picture of our house where it was. It was a tall house with like a 30-foot tall, really steeply pitched roof and blue roof. And all you see where our street was a 30-foot high wall, field of lava, and our roof crinkled up, bleached white, sitting on top of this hardened lava flow. That was it. The entire rest of the house had been burnt and then buried under a 30-foot wall of lava.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Well, you're in a way a survivor then. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have been, I don't know, you could have been in the house somehow. I mean,
thank
most
good-
people are pretty aware that
Yeah.
it's time to move.
Yeah, there was time for
when,
people to get
when
out.
Pelly's moving your way, it's time to make a move.
Thank goodness. Yeah, there were no fatalities that we know of.
Yeah.
But it's devastating. It's a catastrophe for the area. Massive aid is going to be needed to help these people because a lot of the folks out there just have nothing. I mean, nothing.
Really?
And as human beings, we have to help them.
Yeah.
And, that's just what being a human being is about. It's the only way we survive, actually.
Maybe we need a few more benefits for the people of the Big Island.
Yeah.
Wow.
Russell Ruderman says there's actually quite a bit of federal aid going to be coming in And he's talking about rebuilding the entire area that was lost through this, moving it, everybody, giving them land, and building community centers, and sort of doing a modern, in terms of community planning, take on what has been lost, but maintain the culture, which is very unique out there, of what has been, taken, from that area. They're going to redo it.
How you doing, Bobby? Bobby D. Best is sitting in the corner again.
Bobby.
She doesn't get seen on camera, and some people suspect I'm a ventriloquist.
I don't see anybody there.
She's my imaginary wife.
Oh, now I see.
And a better wife you couldn't have as an imaginary wife. So, I'm really interested in your music, and because I saw your YouTube presentation, and you have a couple of. Sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons here.
Well, let's go
That's
back
Bobby's
to
job.
how he got this Hawaiian award for music that's not Hawaiian.
That's
right?
kind of a story.
Yeah, because that's unusual.
Yeah. Well, let's jump forward in my career past the Santa Cruz and Guitar and Music Festival, guitar duo part based in Santa Cruz, California. Now I've moved to Hawaii, and an old surf buddy, Brad White, and friend of mine, he was a historical woodwind player, the recorders, the goat horns, all that kind of stuff. We'd played together in a rock band in Los Angeles when we were kids. He was living on Oahu and had a music series with the early music group at the Honolulu Academy of Arts. And the university had brought myself and a guitarist, Paul Farley, whom I had been playing music festivals and guitar festivals with in the Bay Area in California, over for a master class and a concert. So I saw what Brad was doing. Things were slowing down in the Santa Cruz area. And so I thought, okay, I'll move over to Hawaii. Plus, I surf. I mean, so, you get, and it worked out very well. We became very popular, which is a story, led to an international recording career. We sold about 120,000 CDs, I think.
9 releases altogether?
Yeah, 9 releases,
Wow. Yeah.
And anyways, one of them, Old Friends 2, was awarded the Hoku in '86 for Best Instrumental Release of the year.
And what did you receive yours for?
Well, that was it. It was for a recording called
one.
Old Friends 2. The name of the group was White Eisenstein, and we received the Hoku under the Best Instrumental Release of the Year category.
And actually, I've got the music queued up here from YouTube. Do you want to play a few minutes of
Sure,
it?
of course. What are we looking at here?
This is the Hoku award-winning guitarist.
Okay. Let me say a word about that. This is just a little sampler of some of the stuff I do on the nylon string guitar. Plus, I'm learning to sing. I'm new to singing, but I'm studying with a great teacher, and I've fallen in love with singing. So there's a little vocal section at the end where I think some maybe Sinatra, Grateful Dead. Anyways, I'm more of a guitarist, so if you don't like the singing, don't throw away your radio. But it's not too bad. Anyways, yeah, sure, put that on. Then later we can listen to a full classical piece, Spanish, real fiery Spanish piece.
Oh, great. So this is it. Turn it up. I love this piece. Charles Ives.
Eric Satie.
I get them mixed. I don't know why. I get them mixed up. I love this.
This is the other piece singing a lot of the 60s stuff.
Now, is The Whiter Shade of Pale, is that based on a classical piece?
Yeah. Man.
We have a little band. We like to play that one, too.
Yeah, I love to sing it.
Lovely, never ever change. Keep that rebel strong. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you.
Well, you got a good voice.
Oh, thank you, sir. I got a great teacher.
Obviously, no tin ear you. So, was this part of the album that won the Nahoku?
No, the singing is new. I've only been singing a few years. And the other music was just little samplers that people could hear of some of the nylon string stuff I do.
And you can see more from his YouTube presentation by going to his website, Eisenstein, Lee Eisenstein, Hoku award-winning guitarist, classical guitarist.
WIX. I have a site on Wix. And they can hear my most two recent CDs there in full also for free. They can listen to those on WIX, WIX.com.
Any relation to Sergei?
Get asked that a bit.
I imagine, yeah.
No relation.
Yeah, because he
Guy knew how to make a movie.
looks nothing like you.
Potemkin.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah, Potemkin.
Yeah, he's great. No relation that I know of.
Now, whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in an area called the Borscht Belt of Los Angeles in the 50s and 60s.
The Borscht Belt.
Yeah, it was called the Borscht Belt because a lot of Jewish refugees after World War II settled there in the Fairfax area. And I was about a mile away from that.
So it had nothing to do with beat aficionados or those who were...
No, but you're
Love
talking
the
my
beat.
language now. I love the beats. In fact, the beats inspired... One of the reasons I'm a guitarist is because of the beats.
Well, you can't get a good bowl of borscht here.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't.
That's right.
There's no... We have no Jewish deli, and I feel...
In the whole state.
Would somebody please open up a genuine Jewish deli? We're dying out here for
A real corned beef sandwich.
You can get good bagels here, I think.
Yeah, that's not ethnic food. That's human food. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're
Matzo
vegetarians,
soup,
so
matzo brie. Oh, forget it. Forget about it. You guys do matzo brie omelets? Matzo omelets rock.
Matzo omelets?
Yeah.
Really?
Without eggs?
No, with eggs. Here's how you do it, folks. Get some matzah at the store, fry it in butter, crinkle it all up, break it all up, and then throw your eggs in and make an omelet with that. And make it kind of on the wet side. It is so freaking good. Oh, jeez.
My first husband, when I used to cook, we did that with bacon fat.
Excellent. It's better with bacon fat.
Back in the carnivore days.
Yes.
How could we forget? Yeah.
Not too kosher.
Well, aloha and welcome to Maui.
Oh, mahalo.
My
Mahalo,
gosh.
Bill.
You really now are you going to settle down here? Are you
Yeah.
thinking of moving about, or
Well, we're renting a place now, but I think we're going to settle here.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
We can always use another fine musician.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I'm a fine musician. So you mentioned Berkeley, and you performed at the Cabrillo Music Festival
Yeah, twice.
in Berkeley.
Santa Cruz.
What year was that?
That was around 76, 77, something like that.
That's when I came here. I came here in 75, but I lived in Berkeley before that.
Yeah.
And
Maybe it was earlier.
Berkeley,
Yes,
Berkeley's one of those towns where no matter what you did, somebody'd be against you.
Yeah, I liked Berkeley back in the day. My guitar shop was up on Shattuck Avenue.
Oh,
off of
really?
there in Berkeley.
Well, I worked at Postal Instant Press right on Telegraph Avenue.
Yeah.
Which, instant press posters. Berkeley was like the center of poster heaven for people. And we could knock them out just like that. It was an exciting place to be.
Absolutely.
And then I was a big part of a commune. We opened up a restaurant on Haste and Telegraph called the One World Family.
Oh, yeah, I heard of you
restaurant.
guys.
Yeah, and we had a like a natural foods cafeteria. We had a pizzeria
Yeah.
and a bakery and a kind of a nightclub kind of thing.
Yeah.
What an interesting place.
And an interesting time.
And because People's Park went off right next door. People's Park was right next door to the restaurant. The restaurant, for people who don't know, Haste and Telegraph right there was an old supermarket. I forget what supermarket, but it was that big. And when the riots were going off right there on the corner, we were surrounded. Wow. We couldn't go out any door. Yeah. We went up to the roof, but somebody said, there was a guy who was shot with a rubber bullet down the street, and this is true. And so we thought, well, maybe we better stay inside. And then the police were kind enough to back their police car up to the front door, and it was just us working and fill our place with gas.
Oh, lovely of them.
Yeah. So we went into the walk-in refrigerator and smoked as much grass as we could, and waited until
Proper
the riot was
proper thing to do under the circumstances. Under any circumstances.
Wait until the riot is over. But what a town to live in, and a great place to live for.
So you
for
never
music.
went into Lee's shop, his guitar shop?
Oh well, no, I didn't own the shop. I was a customer there, and I bought my first great Spanish guitar there.
I vaguely remember the shop, but
It's a small shop.
Yeah,
there was a coffee house in the same little alcove kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was so busy working at Postal Instant Press and then the restaurant, and that I really didn't have time.
Hanging out with Mario Savio. Free speech movement.
It was a
The Beats were the
remarkable
best.
time.
None of this stuff would have happened if it hadn't been for the Beats. Ginsberg, that whole gang. Everybody should listen to the poem "Howl" by Allen Ginsberg, and they should absolutely expose students in poetry to that poem, and Emily Dickinson. But man, that was such an enlightened movement, the Beat movement.
It was a literary time. It was based on writing, and for the most part, I mean, we didn't have the distractions, even of TV, that much back in those days. I mean, we have four channels.
The English language.
Yeah, and writing was a big part of it. I grew up in North Beach in San Francisco. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and so I was around the Beat movement constantly, and the art.
Yeah.
And nowadays, artists can't afford to live in San Francisco.
Yes, that's the magic of the marketplace.
It's really unfortunate because the magic of San Francisco was the arts and all of the divergent character of the peoples who can no longer afford to live, even in the Bay Area. I don't know where the workers of San Francisco, are they bussed in? Are they brought in? Or
they sleep in their cars, some of them. They sleep where they work, some of them.
Yeah, it's really, and it's crazy, and that's the way it is in New York as well. And we've talked about that on this show, as a matter of fact, talking about Maui. Maui is like a ship that can only hold so many passengers, and so we're hoping that we won't continue to bring in more and more and more and more.
You can't. It'll destroy this place. Look what they did to Oahu.
Well, and the roads.
The speculators and the politicians.
You'll get used to sitting in traffic.
Planners.
Oahu's the worst, though.
Well, that's what the market did. You want that here. That's what the market will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to control it, or else it will control.
Says the guy who just moved here a few days ago.
but this is another issue. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, the issue is that we only have a certain carrying capacity.
I can leave, I guess. If it'll help.
Well, everyone wants to close the door as soon as they get in.
Yeah. Well, I promise we'll spend part of our time on Oahu. Which we will anyways. So.
Well, that's what they do in Haleakala Park, is they consider carrying capacity.
Yeah.
But of course you can't do that for the whole island because it's America.
Well, things can change. We're all old enough to know that nothing is static. They only appear to be static. They're not. all this can change, and it can change fast.
Well, it seems to be.
Yeah, it can change. We can have reasonable planning the same way, first world modern countries that choose to do that do. There's no reason we can't do that.
Well, in Ojai, they don't allow chain stores.
Yeah. People need to make these decisions. Take the money out of politics, then have a representative government, and we make these decisions as a community, as Ohana, as people.
Well, we'll see what the backlash does. So let's talk about music.
Okay.
Yeah, because you brought in two of your albums, Songs for a Dreamer, and
My most recent one is the Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic. And I got the idea for the artwork. You folks can't see it. It's a guitar covered by molten lava in the front and then a lava flow on the back. And this idea, I became obsessed with it about 2 years before the first lava flow that almost hit Pahoa. And it kept, before that happened, it kept bugging me that I couldn't get this image out of my head. Then the lava flow hit. The back cover is a photo from that lava flow. And then, now the area's been devastated by a much, much bigger flow. So I get all chicken skin. Folks have said, hey, you kind of predicted this thing a little bit. It just, I wondered about it at the time.
so Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic. I assume you've over the years picked up some slack key tunings.
Several slack key tunes on there by Keola Beamer. I've arranged them. One music reviewer in, I think, Spain wrote that one of the things I do is I create incredibly complex music that sounds simple. And if you listen to my releases, especially my more recent ones, that's what you're going to hear. You really hear that on Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic, but you hear it in Songs for a Dreamer too. And it sounds simple, but you listen into it, and there's all this stuff going on with the guitars.
Well, let's listen to all this stuff going on.
Sure.
What particular track do you want to play?
Well, start with the first one. That's
Olamana Sunrise?
Yeah, this is kind of a tropical release, so let's start with something tropical.
Let's give a listen from Lee Eisenstein, Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic, and Olamana Sunrise on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. That's beautiful. Olamana Sunrise with Lee Eisenstein, and that's your own composition with Pierre Grill and Richard Marquez.
Yeah.
Who was playing bass?
That was Pierre Grill.
Oh, okay. Because
He also, Richard played the percussion.
Oh, yeah, right. Percussion. Pierre plays keyboards, accordion, and he also did the mixing.
Yes,
I mean,
great
it sounds
engineer.
wonderful.
Rendezvous Studios on Oahu. Boy, the guy's good.
And Armchair and a Moose Studios.
On Armchair and a Moose Music. that is my publishing company.
Oh, it is.
Armchair and a Moose.
Is this a Canadian organization? We don't get many moose, eh? Well, what a great sound. And I want to remind people, if you're flying Hawaiian, you can actually listen to his CD release, Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic.
But you would have to go back in time to do that.
Songs for a Dreamer.
About 12, 15 years, and then you can do that. Then you can hear my music on Hawaiian Airlines.
But Songs for a
You have to
Dreamer
put it
no
on
longer?
your iPhone.
Yeah, they only play the albums for a few months, and
I
then they
see.
rotate them.
So you'll have to go back in time.
Or download it and listen to your device.
That's the way to
Yes,
do it.
it's in all the usual places.
Well, how cool is that? To get your music on an airline.
Oh, yes.
That can't be too easy. I mean, it's not like you just send in a CD and say, put it on the airline.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you a quick story how I did that. I called Hawaiian Airlines, sent in a CD, and they played it.
That's it, huh? Well, they probably
Took years
never
of
know.
hard work.
Well,
You were absolutely right, sir. That is how you do it.
Huh.
Well, I ran my
But
own little
not
record company. I got real good at just cold calling people. You'd be surprised. You can talk to a lot of people. You'd be surprised.
Huh.
Just call anybody.
So how many albums have you released altogether?
I think
with
10 now.
10. And 9 with Brad White.
7 with Brad White.
7?
I've done 2 original CDs, Songs for Dreamer, Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic, and then Christmas Songs for Dreamer, which is a Christmas album that has a similar sound to Songs for Dreamer. And I wrote most of the music on White Eisenstein's best-selling CD, Winds Across the Water. And that recording incorporated something called a MIDI guitar, which we could talk about. I feature that prominently now in my shows. And it's very interesting, and it kind of blows people's minds because you don't expect a guitar to sounds like that.
So is it using MIDI sampled sounds?
Yeah, you know how keyboard and synthesizer players
Sure.
can press on a key and you can get any sound they want?
Right.
This allows you to do the same thing with the guitar.
Huh.
And so for decades, I've been orchestrating behind the guitar with various instruments. You know, I create these various settings, like having a cello on the bass string, choirs on another string.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, weather effects, anything you want, Three Stooges, anything you want. And then you trigger them as you're playing, and you're orchestrating around the guitar with the sampled sounds.
You know, it was just Les Paul's birthday recently, and I played one of his early radio shows, I think his 3rd radio show with Mary Ford. And he was doing things then, and I guess that would be the 40s or 50s, that spontaneously, live, that with his Les Pulverizer, he called it, that is amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing, considering none of this, there was no MIDI, there was nothing digital about it, it was all analog.
Yeah, he was a real innovator and an astoundingly great guitar virtuoso. He was as great as anybody. I mean, you listen to that guy, he's arpeggios. He'd fly up and down the neck playing these arpeggios behind Mary Ford.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy was as great as anybody.
And the Les Paul was like a signature instrument among all electric guitars.
Yeah.
That's
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
To this day.
So many musicians.
Everybody.
I had one. I'm sorry I got rid of it years ago.
Yeah.
But it was the heaviest damn guitar I ever had on my shoulder. Solid mahogany. Felt like 40 pounds.
It's like strapping a guitar amp around your neck with frets. And, those buggers can be heavy.
Yeah, but what a sustain. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the MIDI guitar, now who makes that?
I started with the Photon system, which was the very first one ever made for the guitar, and they said it wouldn't work on a nylon string guitar, so naturally I put their pickup on my nylon string guitar, and it worked. So, and that led to the Winds Across the Water release and those performances featuring that stuff. And lately, I've decided to kind of branch out and start playing electric guitar, and I put MIDI pickups on my electric guitars, and so I could do the same thing. And so now I'm kind of going into the steel string world and also learning rock and roll. And I'm kind of doing some real basic stuff along with my more advanced kind of stuff. I want to put together an electric band.
Where can you find the MIDI guitar? Is it just a pickup that you run through your
I get
computer,
my
or?
stuff through Sweetwater.com on the internet. They're a great music store, but there's others, you know.
Sweetwater, are they out of California?
No. They're somewhere east of that. But I like them, and but it's called Triple Play if you want to get this and slap it on your steel string guitar. And it's fantastic. You know, it comes with a library of sounds that you can play. And then you can purchase additional libraries, you know, if you want other kind of sounds.
Do you have an example on one of your 2 albums here, Songs of a Dream for a Dreamer or the Flow Guitar Magic?
Let's see. I wrote some of them. Yeah. The thing is, I wrote the parts, and then my engineer and arranger then transcribed them for keyboard. So we could listen to the very first cut on Songs for a Dreamer, but rather than do that, put on Hawaiian Flow Sunday Morning, because I'm playing the MIDI guitar on one instrument. I usually live I play many sampled instruments as I'm playing and sounds, but put this on, you'll hear that web of guitar that's real complicated, but it sounds simple, that guy was talking about in the press in Europe. And you'll hear a string line, and I do a lot of stuff like that too. I like a real dreamy sound, and I go for that. So
Hawaii Sunday Morning?
Hawaii Sunday Morning.
All right.
Yeah, I was thinking your music sounds like something to make love with.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. A lot of heart in it. A lot of love in my music.
So this is using the MIDI right now?
You'll hear it in a moment.
Okay. Well, I love the vocal setting. It sounded like
thank you.
a female singer.
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
man, that's gorgeous.
That's also triggered from the guitar. I do a lot of stuff with the female voice.
and
love that
strings,
sound.
of course.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Can you get percussion sounds out
Anything.
of it?
You're not limited at all. The instrument doesn't care what kind of sound is loaded into it. It could be anything, and you just get the sounds you want and you trigger them and work them into your music. If people want to hear my MIDI guitar stuff, go to YouTube and type in Lee Eisenstein Seattle Hemp Fest, and go to about the middle of that particular performance. And the song before I switch to vocals, you'll hear a pretty good sampling of some of the stuff that I've done, at least on that one piece with the MIDI guitar. You'll see it.
You played for Thatcher. Is this true?
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher?
Yes, I did play for her, yes.
How did that happen?
I wasn't with her. I was hired. They paid me, of course. Why, you think I do it for free?
Well, I don't know. And Jim Neighbors? As well?
I would play for free for Jim Neighbors anytime.
Really?
What a sweet guy.
Yeah?
Yeah. He used to come into La Mer at the Holly Kalani Hotel. That's their 5-star restaurant. And Brad White and myself were the only musicians they've ever had play there. And we played there for several years. And Jim would come in fairly often, and he was just the greatest guy. He's just real sweet, friendly. He'd do his famous Gomer Pyle impersonations for you.
Really?
Yeah, he was a lot like the character he plays on TV, but very gracious.
Yeah.
Really nice guy.
Some people, after they've been pegged in a certain character, they don't want to, play off of that.
Sure.
But a few Tommy Smothers. There's a guy who was never off.
Yeah.
He was always on.
Oh, yeah.
And to hang around with him was just constant entertainment.
Wow, did you ever hang out with a guy?
I did, actually.
Wow.
I had a chance to spend a little time
He's a
with a
genius.
few other people, and he was doing the yo-yo thing.
Yes.
And, he was just constantly on. A little bit kind of made me a little sad because I thought, well, geez, can't he get a break?
Yeah.
Does he really think he has to entertain everybody all the time?
Yeah.
But he was one of the great entertainers.
I have a
had
theory that a
chance
lot
to
of
meet.
people who get up on stage and become performers are actually very introverted and very shy. And
Well, that's often
that's
true,
how they
yeah.
relate to people.
Yeah, and
I
it's-
am.
That's one way to overcome that.
We
It's-
express ourselves through our art, our music, our comedy, whatever it is we do.
Well, who were some of your influences musically growing up? And
Oh, so many.
You
My influences are all over the place, and the thing is that when I mention influences, my music doesn't necessarily sound like them. They're just artists whose music has been tremendously influential to me, even though I choose to make music that's very beautiful and transports people to this wonderful place. But I like all kinds of stuff. I used to listen to Eric Dolphy, who was a very dissonant kind of jazz guy, used dissonance real well. Coltrane, of course. All the classic jazz guys, Jerry Mulligan, everything. I mean, I love pop. I love female pop singers. I love, Sarah Vaughan. I mean, it's hard to find music I don't like. And but the most unusual band that I liked, and one of the two greatest live acts I've ever seen, are largely unknown to the public. Extremely outside music. They used a lot of polyrhythms and polyharmonies, like a hurricane clashing into each other with this beautiful diamond right at the center of it. And that was Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band.
oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I've never been a fan. I had a chance to see him in the middle of a bill between Mahavishnu Orchestra when they were doing Birds of Fire.
Yeah.
And yes.
I'm a huge Mahavishnu fan.
And they were and he was in between the two.
Oh, yes, great billing.
But people who love
Yes.
and Mahavishnu
Yeah.
evidently didn't care for the dissonance
Right.
of Captain Beefheart.
You got to have
And
big
they
ears
booed.
for that stuff.
Boo, boo.
That would be like Boo and Stravinsky. I mean, assuming you hear musicality in skillfully used dissonance, polyrhythms, and polyharmonies, that to the average listener appear to clash. But again, if you see a fuller palette of colors, you see the music in it and you feel it. I saw them at the Troubadour right after he released Trout Mask Replica, which is sort of like his
That's the classic.
great classic
Yeah.
Beefheart recording, although a lot of them are great. But anyways, The band I saw on stage that night was the greatest live act I've ever seen in my
Wow.
life to this day.
Really?
And Beefheart had a 5-octave range. He was astounding as a singer and sax player and harmonica player, but the Magic Band were beyond description. These parts clashing into each other, bouncing off each other, all grounded in the blues, Mississippi Delta blues rhythms, just pounding those things, but disassembled the way Picasso, what he did with Cubism. Deconstruction.
Yeah.
That's what Beefheart did.
Yeah.
And the only other act that I've ever seen that came anywhere close to being as great as that particular lineup of Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band was the original Who that I saw at the Fillmore in San Francisco with Keith Moon on drums.
Yeah.
Only act I can compare them to in terms of the greatest live act of all time.
And Keith Moon, man, that guy was like no other. He was a machine. He was,
wasn't he?
Well, I have a hard time comparing him to Billy Cobham with Mahavishnu because
He's more precise.
so precise. I was
crazy. He was all over
I
the
couldn't
place.
keep my eyes off him when Mahavishnu was playing.
Me too.
I could not take my eyes off Billy Cobham because he was. It wasn't like do do
No.
do do
No,
dum
no.
dum. It was just a muscle bound.
Right, one of the most
drumming.
powerful drummers ever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to turn me on to Captain Beefheart.
Oh, yeah,
because
I will.
I've had nothing but, and I do DJ work
Yeah.
on Manao, and I never play Captain Beefheart. So
I don't think that his recordings give you an indication of how great they were live. You know, there are bands where the recordings don't match up to how great they are when they're actually playing in front of you with their amps
Yeah.
turned, all the way up.
Yeah,
and a
that's
half.
right.
However, yeah, sure, I'll send you some cuts you can listen to.
Great.
There's one called Peon. It's a duet for bass and guitar, electric bass and guitar. And it sounds like medieval music with a dinosaur stomping through it. Listen to Peon. I'm learning that now, the guitar part. I want to put together an electric band, which I've never done before, and a more melodic approach to that song is going to be in the repertoire of songs. But I'll send you some stuff to listen to.
Well, I want to put a heads up to all of our musician friends who might be listening. Lee Eisenstein is on the island. He's living here right now, and I suggest if you want to play with him, you catch him as quickly as possible because I think you're going to be very busy playing music. You got the Nahoku Hanohano Award for Best Island Reggae Song.
Oh, okay, that's not
that right?
Nahoku. This is a more recent thing.
Oh, okay.
One of the songs on Hawaiian Flow
Just
Guitar
Plain
Magic
Folks.
was nominated under the Best Island Reggae Song category in what's described by the industry as the most prestigious independent music awards in the country. It's called the Just Plain Folks organization, and it's all top people in the industry. And they selected one of my songs. I forget which one. One of them. Select them all. But yes, that was a huge honor. It's one of the biggest musical awards in the country, and apparently the biggest for independent artists. And I was a nominee for my new album, one of the songs from that.
And Just Plain Folks?
Yeah, that's the organization. You can find them online.
What does it mean, independent artist?
Artists that aren't signed to a large corporate label. They maybe have their own label. They're usually smaller artists, independent. They work outside of the corporatocracy that,
You have more freedom that way, I'm sure.
So what are the advantages and disadvantages of releasing a CD on your own?
My career was in the pre-digital era, back when you could release an album and you knew you were going to sell tens of thousands of copies of it or more. And when digital came in, CD sales for individual artists dropped 90% across the board. So if you were selling 1 million releases, LPs, you went down to 100,000. Sold 100,000, you went down to 10. And this was the average. So it destroyed the music. The ability to copy music infinitely destroyed the sales aspect of it. So I don't know what people do nowadays, but I put out releases just because I have music in me I want to get out and I want to share it with the world and I want to hear it myself on a recording. And I would just say, just if you want to do that, then do it. And people are making music usually at their live gigs, but there are artists that are making real money selling recordings.
And what would be the cost? I mean, you don't have to break it down individually for your albums, but what would be kind of a ballpark cost if somebody wanted to come out with an album like this one with a cardboard sleeve and very teeny tiny writing?
I use disc makers. It's cheaper if the letters are smaller.
It is.
It's
It's not cheaper for us.
Less ink.
Trying to read the darn thing.
I know.
eh?
It just, yeah.
Yeah.
The eyes are
So what would it cost for a person to come out with an album?
Well, assuming
roughly?
you've got your music recorded already, I'm guessing about $500, and that'll get you about 300. Your first 300 CDs.
Oh, really?
I use disc makers. I like them.
I don't know what that means. Disc makers.
It's a company that will press the CDs.
Uh-huh.
They
And
can also
for-
they can also master it too, which is I highly recommend people have their recordings mastered before they burn them to CDs. Huge difference.
That would be extra, though. That would cost extra.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And why is it? Why is that worth it?
Well, these mastering houses have equipment that the recording studio probably doesn't have, and they can bring out bring out a lot of stuff that the version you gave them that's in it, but that you can't hear it. And by bringing up various frequencies and doing all kinds of digital, kind of magic they do with this stuff, they can simply bring out what's there and make it sound much, much better than what you gave them. I was stunned when I heard the difference.
Well, there is some criticism about the compression
And rightly so.
that happens with a lot of music.
Yeah.
Where the sound is just kind of at the same level.
Isn't that the
every
truth?
instrument?
Not my stuff.
And no, that's not the way music should be. It
Yeah.
should be like when you're in nature.
Yeah.
The birds aren't all singing at the same, loudness.
This has been studied.
Yeah.
Acoustic scientists studied music from the past, the few decades, pre-computer, and the frequency range has, because of the use of samples, electronic samples, has become extremely compressed to a narrow range,
Right.
whereas in the acoustic days you had a much wider range. And this kind of ties in with something else that happened in another aspect that affects music, and that's lyrics. We were talking about the beats in the English language. They were masters of the English language. If you listen to artists who came kind of out of that tradition, like Joni Mitchell, listen to her lyrics. That's the kind of lyrics you get when you come from a literary tradition where you know literature, you've been taught reading, you've been taught some poetry, you've gone and read the stuff. Then your vocabulary becomes huge, and it goes into the lyrics. And I love a lot of modern music. Humans always create great music. That's in our DNA to do that. But the complexity and skillful use of the English language in lyrics has not thrived, and that's as the use of the vocabulary kind of became compressed, just like the music, to many, many less words. It then trickled into the lyrics, who also reflected that. So it's just my kind of thing. I really like the idea of using our language.
Well, I'm surprised that people are still using the word baby in songs, in popular songs these days.
Hey,
because
chicks dig it.
But I don't know. It kind of reflects the old misogynistic ways that,
Bad.
Yeah, it's this baby, come on, baby, and we've heard these baby songs for so long, and even with our band, we love to do them.
Women like babies.
You think
Don't tell anybody.
But do they want to be one?
I don't know. I think there's something in the message there. I mean, if it's any word can be used, the wrong way, but there are words that kind of resonate with people.
I think music.
But I know what you're saying. They use baby too much.
Music
Down with baby.
generates propagation.
Yeah, right. we
And
can't
propagation of the species.
propagating all over the place.
They're propagating right now while we're talking.
Right now, they're doing it.
probably listening to
Yes.
the radio.
Yes.
Yeah, busy propagating.
As they should.
Well, I hope you can afford a baby
Yeah.
because they aren't cheap. Do you have kids?
Yeah.
Are they musical?
Yes, a daughter who is, and a stepson who loves music. He just had great taste in music, and he likes the modern stuff. He likes a lot of rap and a lot of like the house music and different kind of things. Our daughter is a singer. She's a gifted voice.
Oh.
Loves music, learning piano, although her professional background is in public health. But yeah, music kind of runs in my family.
And have you taught music?
Oh yeah, I taught for Cabrillo College. I went there as a student in '72, and they hired me immediately to be a classical guitar teacher. So I taught for them. I taught a little bit for UCSC because they had some students that would prefer to study with me, and the university let them do it. And I taught for UH-ELO and privately, you know.
Well,
I'm a
we
good
only
teacher.
have.
I'm an excellent driver.
We only
So
have.
I'm not teaching much now.
Well, you just arrived on Maui.
Yeah, it's only
you've
been a
been
couple
living in Hawaii for 40 years. Lee Eisenstein, who's in our studio here at KAKU, 88.5 FM, and we've only got less than a minute. Is there one of your songs on the Hawaiian Flow Guitar Magic that you'd like to go out with?
Yeah, how about Papa's Okole How by Keola Beamer?
Okay. We'll
Yes.
do that one. And
Filthy, these titles.
Okole How, yeah. I've
These
never
are songs of our youth, really.
Yeah.
We were
True,
in our
yeah.
20s when we heard these.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank
you, Bobby.
Keep us posted if you've got a gig or something coming
do
up.
that.
We want to know about it. Thank you, Bobby D. Best and Larry John and Maui Toyota. And we'll leave you with Papa's Okole How with Lee Eisenstein. Now, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Aloha.